We all know the words of Joseph Stalin. After Allied leaders complained about the brutal conduct of his soldiers toward German civilians, he simply replied, "Understand it if a soldier who has crossed thousands of kilometers through blood and fire and death has fun with a woman or takes some trifle." But this fun was the systematic rape of German women on a scale that defies comprehension. Historians estimate up to 2 million victims. This wasn't a trifle. This was a war crime on an industrial scale that cost over 240,000 women their lives, many dying from suicide or disease. Even as the American, British, and French forces committed rapes, estimated at hundreds of thousands by the US alone, the sheer scale of the Soviet assaults was exponentially higher. Why did the supposed liberators of Europe unleash such absolute monstrosity? We're diving into the 6 historical reasons, from revenge and hate propaganda to profound sexual repression that turned the tide of victory into a nightmare for German women. Throughout history, rape has been a way to show dominance over defeated enemies. Women of the vanquished were treated as spoils of war. The winners raped them after they had killed their sons, husbands, and fathers. During World War II, Germany committed horrific crimes against humanity, ranging from the Holocaust to the systematic raping and killing of innocent women and children in the occupied territories. After the tide of war turned and the Allied forces invaded the territory of Nazi Germany, the German civilians, especially women, felt the brunt of reprisals. Listen to the words of the Russian novelist Alexander Solzhenitsyn. "All of us knew very well that if girls were German, they could be raped and then shot. This was almost a combat distinction." The Red Army, the Rape Army. On October 21, 1944, the Soviet troops crossed Angarop Creek and entered Germany. What followed next was a series of disgusting crimes against humanity. The victorious Soviets exacted horrific revenge upon the helpless civilian population of Nazi Germany. The Soviet army raped over 2 million German women. Over 240,000 women died because of rapes. Many committed suicide or died from venereal diseases. The Soviets looted, killed, and raped like crazy. Every time they entered another German city, the Soviet commanders gave their soldiers 3 days to do whatever they wanted. The Soviets raped every German woman between 8 and 80. They raped young girls, grandmothers, pregnant women, and even nuns. They raped women in public, in front of their families, and shot them afterward. Groups of Soviet soldiers gang-raped German women. On average, every victim was raped 70 times. The Soviet army even raped Soviet and Polish women who had been liberated from the Nazi concentration camps. When Allied leaders complained to Stalin about the conduct of his soldiers, he replied, "Understand it if a soldier who has crossed thousands of kilometers through blood and fire and death has fun with a woman or takes some trifle." Why the horrendous scale? Why did the Soviets rape German women on such a horrendous scale? All Allied forces committed rapes, yet the volume of crimes committed by the Soviets was much bigger. Consequently, there must have been a reason or multiple reasons for these actions. Historians identified 6 factors for the mass rapes. 1. Tremendous suffering and revenge. Nazi Germany aimed to exterminate the Slavic Soviets. The Soviets experienced great suffering at German hands. They wanted revenge. The hatred was such that even Soviet female soldiers reportedly approved of the rapes, finding them amusing. Soviet hate propaganda encouraged the Soviets to be merciless. The Soviet press pictured German women in a demeaning manner. Ilya Ehrenberg wrote, "Use force and break the racial pride of these German women. Take them as your lawful booty. Kill." Feeling of inferiority. The Germans considered themselves superior. The Soviets knew and felt that. The fact that bomb-bombed German houses still looked better than their homes added to this feeling of inferiority. Lack of sex and repression. The soldiers were sex-starved. Since Soviet propaganda forbade eroticism, they were sexually repressed. Consequently, they took every opportunity. One officer remarked that they often raped old women, much to these grandmothers' surprise, if not downright delight. Cultural beliefs. Another reason was culture. Some Asian societies comprising the Soviet Union believed that dishonor was avenged by raping the women of the enemy. Alcohol. The soldiers were binge-drinking alcohol, which was plentiful in Germany. Alcohol magnified their monstrous behavior. Since alcohol makes erections less likely, the soldiers tragically used bottlenecks instead, causing lethal injuries. Not only the Soviets. The rape of women across Europe was ubiquitous. The American soldiers raped German women. The wives of American soldiers accompanying their husbands had to dress in military uniforms to avoid being raped. The New York World Telegram wrote, "Americans look on the German women as loot, just like cameras and Lugers." In the first 6 months of the American occupation, there was a 2,000% increase in sexually transmittable diseases. In the American occupation zone, a shortage of food forced German women into prostitution. Desperate to feed their children, they resorted to exchanging sexual favors for food. French soldiers went on a rampage of looting and raping, with their behavior in Baden-Württemberg matching the Soviets' monstrosity. The British military police regularly received reports of rapes, yet often lacked the resources to investigate and punish. Conclusion. World War II was an extremely cruel war. At the end, the German women felt the brunt of the Allied rage. They paid a heavy price for the crimes of Adolf Hitler. The rape crimes of the Allied soldiers were rarely punished and were hushed by their superiors. After all, the Allied forces defeated horrific Nazi Germany and ended the suffering of innocent people. But women and children didn't deserve their horrendous fate, no matter whether they were of German, Soviet, or of any other nationality. The Allied soldiers brought freedom and a better life to Europe. Yet they were no knights in shining armor.
Welcome to History Vault,